So let's just start just by sort of twisting, like we're trying to do this. So gently. Wanting the movement to get into the skeleton, especially the spine, all the way down to the sacrum and the hip bones, the sitting bones. And up into the skull. So the two sides of the body are always sort of contending a little bit, trying to do opposite things, like just like the figure of eight exercise. And it's the same when you're sitting on the cushion. It's like the two buttocks are trying to sort of wriggle a little bit. So there's always energy flowing up and down the spine just from this action between the two halves of your body. So our good posture, our clear spine is not from me sort of just putting myself into position, but more from the energy flowing through it. The stronger that flow is, the clearer the spine will become. Really push the chest forwards and up so that there's no sense of the stick dragging your head forwards. You're actually leaning back into the stick. You're using the stick as like a bit of resistance that you can drive into with the strength in your spine. And then just roll it down a bit. We're just scanning really. And if you find a place that feels problematic or interesting, then just work it. Just twist a little bit, wriggle into it. Every adjustment that you make in the spine should cause the thymus to lift a little. So with each adjustment, the thymus lifts and you feel more awake. just some twisting. Feel as though it's coming from your two sitting bones driving into the cushion. Now, just the one where we let it go behind the head. So holding the ends. Down behind the back. Shoulders need to be loose and the shoulder blades need to be mobile so they can really pinch together here and then really pull apart here. And just holding it above the head. Try and get like a smooth curve all the way through the spine. So the way we hold the hands in meditation, you can do however you like, but the way we were taught, you have one hand resting on the other, always forget which one it's meant to be, and the thumbs are touching. Yeah, so let's just try, just bring in a bit of work into that, bit of movement. First of all, just link the fingers together. The hands, they sort of grip each other a little bit. You don't have to work at it. It's just there. And so what you want now is this feeling that the circle of the arms is expanding. So the hands are sort of trying to pull apart, but they're being held together by the fingers. So it's producing a more true circle. Feel this right in the center of that, the heart. And then just place the thumbs onto each other. And so there's a sense that the thumbs are sort of very gently pressing into each other as the hands are pulling apart. So you've got the two directions. You've got the movement here, but then the movement here as well. So it produces like a dynamic flow in both directions. And then it's much more likely to become energetic when there's that element of work at play. And also a sense that your hands are sort of trying to twist. A bit like when we were working on the stick at the beginning. So ostensibly we're sitting still when we're in meditation, but when you really relax into it, then the energy starts moving. So there's a lot of internal movement. And it can sort of express in sort of slight sort of wriggles or twists. The spine is trying to wriggle itself into this extended tube rather than just collapse down as the meditation continues. You're actually getting clearer and bigger and longer as it continues because the energy is building up. The same idea, but without the fingers doing this. So just one hand on the other, and then you can sort of use the fingertips of the hand that's underneath. Just grip in slightly to the back of the hand that's on top. So again, I'm trying to pull my hands apart, but they're sort of sticking together. And then I just place the thumbs and just let the thumbs sort of melt into each other a little bit. And then it's the same idea. Let's stand up. Feel that spine, the spine that's become really straight and long. So as I sink, I allow my tail out behind me. And that allows this to project forwards and up, like you're beginning to go down into a real squat. Let's just get the stick again and put it behind the neck. So like we're going to do a real squat. Feel that the spine that insists on straightening through that pressure on the neck. And then just go down, just enough to feel the bottom part of the spine sticking back. I'll do it this way so you can see the angle. So I just go down. So I'm really sticking my bum out, exaggeratedly, really, and feeling this coming up. So imagine this stick is a bar with a lot of weight on it, your own body weight, for example. So as you go down, you'd really have to pull back with your head to stop the bar from pulling you forwards like that. That's the main danger when you do squats. So I go down and I'm just struggling to just keep this bar over my center of gravity, because if it falls forwards like this, it will actually, I'll just smash my head into the ground. So I'm trying to go down with this stick staying sort of in position, not swinging forwards or back, and just feel what you have to do with your spine. You have to let your tail out, but you also have to pull your head back and then just bring it up. Lower back has to get really strong. And you have to just release this here, like you're not afraid of it going out, like you've got a tail here that's actually sticking out behind you. So as you go down, you sort of become intense because the driving back of your tail is really firing up your thymus. You're getting angry almost. And then you come up and then down. Allow the bum to stick back. It really protrudes. It's like the opposite of Tai Chi. And just try not to look down. Keep your eyes either ahead or looking up. So now let's just put the stick back. And then just riding horse, but with a sense of your bum sticking out behind you. You're allowing that release that drives down into your tail So we don't want our bum in to be a clenching here, a holding that's preventing this surge back into the tail. Because if we stop that, then we also stop the other end, which is the thymus lifting and coming out. So I'm allowing this here. It can be very small, but it's there. And then there's a sense of this rising, clipping the chin and coming out. And it is very much a release. It's like something in you just lets go and suddenly, ooh, this has dropped down, gone back, and this is lifted up. There's a sort of reserve, a reticence that we let go of. Almost like you could sing for joy. Or like a war cry, or like the football crowd, cheering their team on. And when you really let go into it, you just get into the legs a lot better. They really start hurting. Surprisingly, it's also easier to activate the hamstrings. So it's a little bit like retaining a little bit of the animal, of the horizontal spine, because when we go down into a squat, our spine is on the way to becoming horizontal. Having a horizontal spine, in a sense, it's really interesting because what's happening, the spine is like an arrow moving in the direction that you're going. This real sense that if you've got a horizontal spine like this, your tail is arrowing backwards, and this part of you is coming forwards. You'd really have to pull the head back to see forwards, and that would really activate the heart. The eyes are fierce. The other way is to bring it up and do this, settle back. And that's our sort of normal posture, but there's something very disconnected about that. So part of me doesn't want that anymore. I don't want this thing of sort of settling into myself. It's much more interesting to be in the world, screaming, coming out, rather than holding myself back. Our normal posture is really the yielding one. I think what has to come first is this ability to engage the world, push yourself out into it like a bull in a china shop. And that requires this posture. It's fiery, it's spirited, it cannot think. When you're like this, thought just goes out the window. You're just like an animal that's just responsive and attentive and nervous and frightened, but real, uncivilized. The main feature of it, really, the tail sticking back a little bit, but also the chest rearing up like a real warrior. And then if you have that, that's there foremost, then yielding is going to have real power, because basically from that, you just become the opposite. So yielding is really it's just a way of dealing with something that comes towards you. I think this thing, keep to a yielding mind. It's important until you've learned it. And so we mustn't let our yielding cause our spirit to be forgotten. And in order to yield, you have to make that real spirited connection. Otherwise, it'll just all be too late. And now just keeping that, move around. What I want to do is get everything that I do to come from here, to come from the heart. This is the big switch that we made when we moved to Blakeney. I arrived one day to work with John, and suddenly everything was different. It just switched to the heart, from the belly, from the head to the heart. So this feeling here that I'm moving into this foot towards this direction, because this is opening, my heart is opening and really reaching out in order to swallow and bring in. So real sense of my spine doing this at the top here. So let's just try just a little bit of that. So it's really coming over the top of the figure of 8. So I'm coming over and then down the middle. Like you're really exaggerating that curvature in the upper spine and then rolling it over. Keep the posture with the sort of driving back here. I move in this direction because my heart, it's like I do this and then I grab what's there. So I turn here. So it's voracious. It's like you're really hungry. You really allow yourself to lean here so that your heart can really thrust out, and then you draw it in. So we're just exaggerating everything really so that we get some sense of it. This is the thing with spirit. You need to really ham it up. So I'll never forget that time at Wimpole Street, and John was teaching. I think it was the power class we were in. So after we'd learnt the short form and the two long forms. So basically every class was just trying to get us to sync and activate the spirit. And he got a bit fed up. He says, okay, let's do a form and we'll pretend we're a wolf. And so this real sense of this, almost like a snout, almost like the dog's snout coming out of your chest. And by the end of the form, we were sort of howling and everyone was really charged up, eyes flaring. And I remember I was sort of shattered for like a week afterwards. Pretending you're something. I have to keep the pressure on with my sinking. If I get too excited with it and come up, instantly the energy's gone. And then I have to fake it. So I have to keep myself down in the legs. So we want to be able to control the heart. I can send it out by firing up my spirit and pulling my shoulders back. But equally, I can pull it in and suck the other person in with it. So this is what John was so good at. So when he did his no contact rebound, it was something similar to this, but the reverse punch. The fist goes out and then you snap it back. And that's enough to disrupt the other person's connection with the ground. Just bring it to riding horse. Okay, let's try just a little bit against the wall, because this is another way that we can work on this. Lean forwards a little bit. Try and get the back leg straight. It doesn't look it, but it feels it. Push into the wall. And feel as though that push is coming from the strength here in the lower back. Your sacrum is angled like this. Also, it's as though there's a hand on it, driving it down, especially into the front leg. So we'd like to feel this connecting from the front leg. Shoulders are relaxed, elbows are dropped, fingers are pointing up. The heart is trying to erupt out of your chest over the top of your sternum. Feel the stretch in the back calf muscle. And then just bring the front foot back and the other one forwards. So you want to sink into it. So really your sacrum is being driven down. Down and forwards, same as it would be if we were in a Tai Chi posture. But now the difference is we're not pulling our tail under, we're not getting depressed, we're not getting submissive. We're letting this stay out, but there's a sense that this is being pushed. Keep the front foot angled in so that you can really drive into the outside edge rather than the heel too much. So from your Ming Men down, that part of the spine is just driving down into the legs so that the part of the spine above it can rear up. You just have to keep a bit of tone in the belly to support the lower back. Back into riding horse. The sacrum angled back. And then if you need to right the sacrum, you just bring it forwards and let yourself lean back. But you've still got that strength in the lower back and you've still got a sense of something rising up your front and wanting to erupt out of your upper heart. Either hand on the dantian or thumb in the navel. And then the other hand, either the back of the hand or the front of the hand, the palm, on your sacrum. And then just adjust yourself. So what we're going to try and do is just move the sacrum like this. So I want to be able to just push down with my back hand and almost lift here just to roll the sacrum, and then I can roll it the other way. So now my tail is really sticking back. And then I can just roll it. So my tail is sort of coming under. register what's happening here and also what's happening in your feelings. It's great doing this with another person, just doing it to them and getting them to do it to you. And what's striking is just how much the legs hurt, because one has to really relax here to allow the other person to manipulate the sacrum. And of course, the more relaxed the legs become, the more they will hurt. I'm not doing this. I'm not just moving it from the muscles here, which would sort of be a little bit counterproductive. I'm getting another part of my body, my hands, to move my sacrum so that the muscles around it can remain relaxed. What we want is to be able to roll the sacrum under like this without it bringing me out of the legs. So when we just let the sacrum angle back like this, then you can really get down in the legs because it's almost beginning a squat. And then when I bring the tail under, if anything, it takes me deeper into the legs rather than bringing me out. And now let's just go down. So just really feel the tail squeezing backwards, like a dog's tail wanting to erupt out of your sacrum. And now let's just try that Qigong circuit. The same posture, tail going back a little bit, just reaching up and just bringing it down the midline to the Dan Chen, and then just let the hands drop, and then bring them up again. What we would like is for everything that we do to come from the heart rather than the designing mind. So my arms come up and out because my heart is really reaching out into the world. And then this is the yield here. I just suck the heart in. The heart gets a little bit mournful. That brings in the energy. It's just a machine really for gathering. It's like feeding again. I'm reaching out and then I just suck it in. But it's all coming from the heart. And when the heart is activated, you'll get emotional. You just want to feel that and control it. So if there's no feeling, then there's no heart. But we don't want the feeling to be so great that we end up a blubbering wreck. And remember, the more I reach out with this, the more this has to go down and back. Whatever your heart is doing, your tail is sort of doing the opposite. So my tail is going back, and then my tail sort of curls under in sort of submission as I yield and bring this energy in, and then I'm back on the prowl again. This is me just coming back to the particular, to the here and now, my own ward-off space. And then this is me reaching out as far as I possibly can into the universe. So it's lovely doing this outside, because then you can really reach up to the clouds and the sky. I'm reaching out for heaven energy and bringing it in. And then we just do the other one. So going around the other way. This is like gathering the energy of the earth. I imagine I'm scooping underneath my feet. And then I just bring that up the front. And it's the same action in the tail, but it's just more difficult, really. So here it's like my tail is going back and under the ground, and then I just roll it. I sort of pull my belly in here, roll the tail under, and then just scoop up some earth. angled back a little bit. Our normal riding horse is very much like a container. And unfortunately, the only thing it contains is me. It's like a refuge for my thinking mind. The mind can feel as though it's quiet because you're not really thinking about anything. But the mind that we want to cultivate is not just a mind that's quiet, but a mind that's out there, a mind that is really vigilant and listening and attentive and wild. And that requires this sort of different posture. So I really have to let these spaces here almost collapse. So I just go down into my legs and the heart is really activated, fierce. Fighting spirit. Let's do those two circuits again, but putting them together, basically the figure of eight. So when I do a figure of eight, the top part of the figure of eight is reaching up to the heavens and bringing it down. And the bottom part of the figure of eight is reaching down into the ground and bringing it up. So just doing like two figures of eights together, I reach up, I bring it down, and then I reach down, and I bring that up. This is the waist of the figure of eight, the tight bit in the middle. And now here to open this up, this is where my heart really has to expand. So here, way. And then over the top. And then this is the difficult one. So we've equally got to expand here. Again, it's coming from here, from the dantian, the stretch across the sacrum, rather than the opening of the heart. This is my legs opening from my sacrum. And then this is my arms and my heart opening up across the shoulders. I'm opening up the top of the figure of eight, catching something, bringing it down and in. Then here I'm opening up the bottom of the figure of eight, catching something in the ground and bringing it up. they call the English reserved. So it's like the opposite of reserve. You're holding nothing back. Everything is engaging. My tail with the ground and my heart with the world. It's foolish, dangerous. So very much all or nothing. You can bring it in, but it's only for a moment. It's only in order to engage the world, like sort of reaching out and pulling yourself along a rope. This is the bit we've lost, really. We've lost that ability to just let our energy out. We've lost heart. That's what I find. It doesn't matter who I work with, they can be the most cheerful person in the world, and they're depressed in the sense that their heart has been civilized. It's been drawn in and controlled by their frightened mind. And it just takes a little bit of adjusting on the spine to actually just roll it up sufficiently for the heart to sort of be free. It's like a lid gets taken off and then energy can just evaporate out of it. So it is very much not letting yourself be a closed system that's in a state, but you are a connected tube pouring into the world all the time. You should watch the sumo. It's on at the moment. There's a couple of days to go. But there's this fighter, he's lovely, he's called Aura. Just before he gets down into the fighting position, he just stands there with salt in one hand, and then he just does this to his heart, like he's just encouraging this sort of vapor to start evaporating from it. And then he throws the salt and goes and takes his stand. Bringing the foot up. Let's first just try just a little bit of this rocking of the hips. Pointing my tail this way and then just pointing it this way. And really, I'm doing a figure of 8 with it. My tail is just tracing loops around each foot. The end of my tail has just pointed in this direction, which requires the tilting of the hips here. And then when we lift the foot off the ground, We use that circle around the foot that's going to fill. Expand the foot, feel as though it's getting bigger, so it's got more surface area, so I'm going to be more stable when I'm on it. So the feeling is that you're sort of connecting to your big toe, and then you just come around the inside edge. So you come into the ball of the inside edge, and then you slip into the inside edge of the heel, and then you just roll around the outside edge as far out as you can with your tail back into the big toe, which presses down to stop yourself from falling into the instep. Big toe, pad of the foot beside the big toe, and then around the heel. So there's this bit where I go around the heel, and that's really my tail driving backwards and getting this chest coming up. And then when I bring the foot up, it's almost like I've yielded to that. This has come in a little bit. So you end up with this sort of yielded chest. And then let's just use that to step back and forth. So going around this foot, and then I step, and then big toe around the inside edge, and then this one again. The other side. Same thing really, but just getting the figure of 8 in the foot. So instead of just going around the foot with a loop, with a circle, I'm going through it with the figure of 8 on my big toe around here, then across into the outside of the heel, around that to the instep, and then across here to the little toe through to the big toe. It's the same sort of thing. It's just got this tightness in the middle. It's got the waist. You think of the figure of 8 as like a circle, and you've just twisted it like this, so it now has a crossover in the middle. I'm going around into the heel and then around the toes into the big toe. Let's just finish with just a bit of the figure of 8. So unifying the upper and the lower body. Top of the figure of 8 captures your upper body. The bottom of the figure of 8 captures the lower body. Reach down with the bottom one. You want the waist of the figure of 8 to sort of be here in your own waist. Same thing here. The angle of my sacrum is sort of back, just a little. And this is wanting to come out. So like a yielding mind is one that's ready to yield, rather than one that has just yielded.